We will take back control of our streets. We will take back control of our courts, of our prisons. And if you're a criminal, I am putting you on notice today that from 2029, or whenever that may be, either you obey the law or you will face very serious justice. You hear it every year. Crime is falling, so please don't worry your poor little heads. Well, that's because the crime survey for England and Wales is based on completely false data. If you look at police recorded crime, which is what we've done for our research all through this, you can see that actually there are some significant rises in crimes of all kinds, particularly crimes against the person. We're actually facing, in many parts of our country, nothing short of societal collapse. If people are scared to go out of the shops, scared to let their kids out, that is a society that is degrading, and it's happening very, very rapidly. I'm astonished that there has been so little debate in Westminster amongst our political classes on this issue, because I'm sure they must, in their MPs' inboxes, get members of the public telling them just how grim things really are. The idea, the concept that we're living in a system of two-tier policing and two-tier justice under two-tier care has really taken hold. You only have to look at the reluctance to prosecute those violent thugs in Manchester Airport who beat up those police officers. It took months and months and months for any prosecution to be brought, and I suspect the reason that it happened is because Reform said if they didn't, we would take out our own private prosecution. And yet, Lucy Connolly and others like that, and she received a 31-month prison sentence, albeit for saying something deeply intemperate and wrong, of that there's no question. Her case was dealt with in days. But there's a parallel from which I think we can draw great inspiration. I worked in the 1980s for a couple of Wall Street houses in my days in the commodity markets, and I remember if you left a restaurant in New York at 8, 9 o'clock at night, you made sure the taxi was there, waiting, the guy gave you a wave, so that you literally spent sort of 5 or 10 seconds leaving the venue. So bad was street crime in New York. And yet, 10 years later, you could wander about New York at 2 o'clock in the morning, being really unconcerned that anything would go wrong. And this, of course, was the inspirational mayor, Rudy Giuliani, who followed the broken windows theory, which is if you deal with crime, if you deal with graffiti, you deal with litter, you deal with things at the ground level, that actually that helps stop crime going further up. And we're doing the opposite. You know, since 2014, you can shoplift up to £200 and frankly, nothing is going to happen to you. Layla would not have been prosecuting them. Sarah would not have been hearing the cases. We've just accepted that shoplifting is okay. Drugs being smoked openly on the streets, that apparently is just okay. So what we've done is we've raised the level of what we now deem to be acceptable behaviour. And of course what happens if you go lax on it? Well, of course, crime moves up to fill that gap and then moves on further still. So I want to be absolutely clear at the start of this 6-week campaign that Reform will be the toughest party on law and order and on crime that this country has ever seen. We will aim to cut crime by half in the first 5 years of a Reform government. We will take back control of our streets. We will take back control of our courts, of our prisons. And if you're a criminal, I am putting you on notice today that from 2029, or whenever that may be, either you obey the law or you will face very serious justice. People being let out, being met by Lamborghinis, Rolls Royces, champagne being opened, and the reoffending rates have been truly horrific. No, we take a very, very different view, and we do absolutely think that if anyone commits more than 3, and whilst of course prison should aim initially to rehabilitate and to educate, if people are, convicted of more than 3 serious offences, well, frankly, we think that puts them on a course towards life imprisonment. And the same goes for sexual offenders and violent offenders. We believe they should serve their full term, not just as punishment, but to keep the rest of society safe. We will build Nightingale prisons. You remember the Nightingale hospitals? Within 72 hours, hospitals were built, and we'll work with private contractors, but we'll want to use the logistical skills that exist in the army and our armed forces to make this happen. We can build up to 12,000 prison places, and we can do so actually in short order. And there are 10,400 foreign prisoners in our prisons, has been mentioned on this platform already. They will be deported back to their home countries. And I think I'm in conversation with Edi Rama from Albania, and I think he's rather agreed that he will take back all of the Albanian prisoners in this country, which is rather a good thing. And yes, we do think dynamic prison places overseas work. You've seen America doing it recently, but the Scandinavian countries are doing it too. You know, Estonia is quite prepared to take prisoners from this country. And in fact, the Labour government has had those conversations already, but of course, nothing has come to fruition. Denmark sends off prisoners to Kosovo and places like that. I mean, it is quite astonishing that to keep a prisoner in a British prison costs nearly £52,000 a year. You could send a child to Eton for that price. So if we can send some of our worst violent criminals overseas to serve their terms, then yes. And if that means that Ian Huntley goes to El Salvador, well, our attitude is so be it. So we're serious about it, but we also think we can cut the costs of running prisons significantly. It seems that everything the British state does, because it's so highly bureaucratised, costs just so much more than everywhere else.
And as you all know, J.D. Vance in the US has raised very serious concerns about how the Online Safety Act has been applied. Would you repeal part or all of the Act in the name of free speech, and also to eliminate two-tier policing?
It's a very good question. And I think, you know, the current row that is going on, not row, but negotiation that's going on between us and the Americans, you know, is over privacy and data privacy. And I think, you know, the British government's instinct on everything is they want as much data, they want, you know, as much potential control over their lives as they possibly can. And I frankly think the Americans are right on this. I think free speech is absolutely fundamental in our society, and I fear it's going to get even worse. I mean, if Angela Rayner pushes ahead with this definition of Islamophobia, and we start treating one religion completely differently to another religion, when it goes against the first rules that you were taught on day one as a magistrate. So look, we don't trust big government. We don't trust big government to have all of our data. We don't particularly trust them to spy on us either. And as I said earlier, what is the point of all of this? Well, crime is allowed to run amok. It all seems to be slightly the wrong way.